Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. I'm back with another New Metal Monday where I talk about my favourite new releases of the week. But before I do that, just very quickly, I did take on board some feedback that you guys left me last week. So going forward, not only will the Spotify playlist be in my description box below, which will feature all of the albums that I talk about in my New Metal Monday videos, I will also be including the links to either the band's Bandcamp pages or their YouTube pages. I am aware that not everybody uses Spotify, so they won't be able to use the playlist that I've set up. So if you don't use Spotify, I will link you to the albums that I'm talking about in particular, like I said, either on the band's Bandcamp page or their YouTube channel. And the great thing about Bandcamp, if you don't already use it, is all of their music will be on Bandcamp, all of their merch, all of their details as well, so you can go and check that out as quickly as possible for yourself. But this week I have 5 brand new albums that I want to talk about, and I'm just going to jump straight in. Okay, so first up I have Borkner with Fall, and it's the 12th studio album from the Norwegian progressive folk black metal band. So the lyrical themes surrounding this record are all about philosophy, nature, paganism, and the cosmos. And all I can say is 3 decades and 12 albums later, these guys are still smashing all expectations. This is a huge soundscape of a journey that is hypnotically otherworldly, but absolutely crushing at the same time. The blend of that brutal black metal sound with that ethereal atmosphere is just outstanding. There's just something really magical about this record, and it is so densely atmospheric. You have all of these really beautiful harmonies and melodies. You've got the crushing black metal elements and a great balance between those black metal style melodic screams and those haunting, soaring clean vocals. Now, it does lean more towards the melodic, progressive folk side of things, but that black metal element is still very much there, and that's what gives it that very raw edge to the emotion and the dense atmosphere that you encounter throughout the entire record. At just under an hour long, you are fully immersed in a wintry journey full of beauty and darkness. But don't forget that epic riffage, the flying solos, the blistering blast beats, the rhythmical drumming, the heavy bass lines, and the melodies and the harmonies between those black metal screams and those soaring, crisp, powerful, clean vocals. I loved this album so much, and I cannot stop listening to it. So if you are a fan of the likes of Arcturus, Enslaved, Early Amorphous, and a bit of Dimmu Borgir, you're definitely going to want to get onto this. 12 studio albums, and these guys still know exactly what they're doing. And like I said at the beginning, they are exceeding all expectations, and it is definitely a band that you want to deep dive into because their discography is just amazing. A real standout moment for me on this record was definitely Nordic Anthem. There was just something incredibly rousing that spoke to my soul when I listened to this track. It starts off with that traditional kind of Nordic kind of stomp, and it has all of these beautiful vocalizations, the chants in this, the synthy moments, the instrumentation is just stunning, and it really reminded me of being on a snowy landscape or a snowy mountaintop with the aurora borealis above, and it was just wonderful. Like I said, I enjoyed the entire record, but that track in particular I listened to nearly on repeat. Definitely check this one out. Okay, so next up on my list, I have Hand of Kaliak with Corey Vrecken, and it's the 2nd studio album from the Scottish Celtic melodic death metal band. This album completely blew me away. Now, if anybody has followed me online long enough, especially over on Twitter, I have loved this band for a couple of years now. Ever since they put out their first album, Samhain, I'm obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed. There's something about this record, there's something about this band, but this record in particular that speaks to my soul, and I feel like I'm home when I listen to this record. Of course, it's a Scottish band. I'm from Scotland, so I am going to absolutely love them, but their sound is so particular and it's so different compared to anything else that I've really listened to before. I can't describe and I can't explain what this record does to me, but there's something incredibly soothing and relaxing despite how brutally hard it is. So the band have taken their name from the fabled Cailleach, who is said to be a Celtic witch god who slumbers at the bottom of the Corryvreckan, which is the world's third largest whirlpool. And you can find this area of treacherous water just off the west coast of Scotland. It is a hugely fascinating story, and when I pick up my history and my mythology projects for the channel, I will be doing a deep dive into both Samhain and Corryvreckan, because these albums are just full to the brim of Scottish mythology. It's very fascinating. But anyway, I'm going to get on to the actual album itself. Now, one of the things that really stands out about this album is the contrast between the vocalists. So the band are made up of a wife and husband duo, and Sophie's vocals are incredibly floating, they're haunting, very ethereal, and it's like there's a siren calling out to you from the void. They are incredibly soft, but incredibly powerful at the same time. And then you have the contrast of John's deep, demonic, guttural vocals that bounce off each other, that creates this dynamic atmosphere, and it's just electrifying. So aside from the vocals, you've also got the distorted guitars, the epic riffage, the heavy bass lines, all of that synthy goodness, the keys, the thunderous blast beats in this, heavy on the melodics, but also incredibly heavy on that crushing attitude. Like I said at the beginning, this is something completely different. I've not heard anything quite like this before, and it's just absolutely addictive and stunning. But not only that, some of the songs are sung in entirely Scots Gaelic, which really translates well to death metal. I never really thought of that before, but the Gaelic language, or at least the Scots Gaelic language, translates so well into that melodic death metal style, and it just adds that whole other layer. And the bands have this uncanny ability to not only play really, really well and have these amazing vocals, but the style that they play in resonates with the stories. So for example, one standout moment for me on this record was definitely the Kieran Crowan, which is about a massive sea monster. And the way that the track comes across is it's very much melodic death metal, but there's a galloping kind of frantic sense about it, and it makes this image of this massive sea monster in the water thrashing around with this atmosphere of foreboding and terror, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. It's been done so well, and each track on this record resonates with the story. So it's done in such a way that not only are you listening to the lyrics, but you can actually picture the story that they're trying to tell whilst the music's playing as well. Amazing stuff, and I love it. I'm not going to lie, I loved the entire album, and I did write a full review for it on This Day in Metal, so I'll get that linked in the description box below if you want a breakdown track by track of the entire record in more detail. And Kieran Crowan is the track that I'm choosing from this album. I cannot get enough of it, but I love the entire album. Do not sleep on this. Check out Corryvreckan, check out Samhain if you haven't checked that out already. I love this band. Okay, so next up I have Counting Hours with The Wishing Tomb, and it's the second studio album from the Finnish melancholic melodic death metal band. Now, if you are a big fan of the likes of Insomnium, Catatonia, and a little bit of Paradise Lost, listen up, because that is the exact vibe that I was getting from this record. It's an incredibly elegant album, and it's a great combination of that classic Finnish melodic death metal sound with mellodoom, soaring guitars, mournful, stunning clean vocals that are incredibly haunting and powerful, thunderous drums in this, and the death metal style growls are incredibly gritty. The record flows really, really softly, but it's incredibly heavy and devastating when the time calls for it as well. It's just an incredibly beautiful, powerful record that takes you on a shadowy journey with really eerie synths, really cool guitars, beautiful solos in this, crushing attitude, like I said, when the time calls for it. And it's just incredibly addictive with really thunderous rhythm. So like I said, if you are a fan of the likes of Insomnium, Catatonia, Paradise Lost, especially the doomier side of Paradise Lost, it has that really haunting, really spooky, gothic kind of sound, and it's incredible. A Mercy Fall is a definite standout moment for me on this record. It opens with a much more upbeat kind of mid-tempo mid-tempo stomp, and it has a really cool melodic riff to it. Really rhythmical drumming, soaring clean vocals, really cool synthy moments before the death growls are introduced, and it kind of just goes back and forth like that, and it flows really, really well. An amazing track on an amazing album. Definitely check this one out. Okay, so next up I have straight up old school death metal for you with Chainsword, and that's Born Triumphant, and it's the second studio album from the Polish death metal band. Now, if you are a fan of the likes of Acrid Death that I recommended last week, this one, you're gonna love this one as well. Straight up, no nonsense, in your face, straight for the jugular, pure old school death metal. And it has that really cool rhythmical kind of stomp to it that's incredibly addictive. And I've listened to this album a number of times over the weekend. Now, lyrically, the themes are surrounding the horrors of war and that dystopian kind of vision that you get in the likes of Warhammer 40k. Really strange distortions. You've got those really cool spoken word moments and quotes throughout that really keeps the album interesting. A near constant barrage of blistering blast beats, really heavy chugging guitars, soaring solos, insane riffage, and those growls are from the depths of hell itself. They're so demonic and so brutal, but it's very, very catchy, and it's quite melodic, but it's very heavily melodic for an old school record. Like I said, if you are a fan of the likes of Acrid Death, Obituary, and huge bolt thrower vibes on here, this is definitely the one for you. Mankind's Last War was a definite standout moment for me on this record. It has that galloping kind of vibe to it that just keeps going and going and going and going, and it does not relent in any way at all. It twists, it turns, it has really foreboding guitars. They're really, really sinister, and a crushing, chugging attitude. I loved this track, and I love the entire album, so definitely get onto this one. Okay, so last up on my list, but certainly by no means least, I have Job for a Cowboy with Moonhealer, and it's the 5th studio album from the US extreme progressive technical death metal band. I loved this record. I'm incredibly fussy when it comes to tech death. I really am. I have to be in the mood for it to listen to it at the best of times anyway, but there's something really enticing about this record. Now, it's their first one since Sun Eater, which was released well over 9 years ago, kind of branching into the 10-year mark more so, actually, and they've completely outdone themselves in terms of expectation. They've taken Sun Eater and they've taken that as kind of like a blueprint and made it even better with Moonhealer. I adore this record. Technically intricate guitar work, you've got those blistering blast beats, rhythmical drumming that are so thunderous, really cool funky bass lines that you can really hear, and I really love hearing the bass in my metal music, and the vocal abilities kind of transition between those deep guttural death metal growls and almost banshee-like goblin shrieks as well. Now, even though the guitars are incredibly technical and intricate, they do present a melodic front from time to time as well. So the thing that I really liked about this particular album is, despite the technicality and how intricate it is, it flows really well, even with the different time signatures, because you've got that melodic element underneath too, and it just works really, really well, and it's incredibly addictive. All of the albums that I've listed on today's New Metal Monday have been incredibly addictive, but this one stands out because of how technical it is still very flowing and very addictive as well. So if you are a fan of the likes of the Black Dahlia Murder, Allegiant, or Cattle Decapitation, you're definitely going to want to get onto this record. I really enjoyed this record. I have been a little bit late to the Job for a Cowboy party, but it is definitely something that I'm going to be delving into now that I've listened to this new record. Etched in Oblivion is a definite standout moment for me on this record. It kind of swings back and forth between that mid-tempo beat and that furious riffage. You have your blistering blast beats and a mix of rhythmical drumming, those really bassy growls, the rasping goblin-like screams, and you've got those really epic guitars, but there's also quite a psychedelic edge to this track as well, which really stood out for me most of all. But I really enjoyed the entire record altogether, so definitely check this one out. So that's it for this week's New Metal Monday. As always, if you could comment down below to let me know what you think of today's records, and if you have any of your own recommendations, please let me know and I'll get them added to my list. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I will be adding these albums into the Spotify playlist that I have, so make sure that you follow that. That'll be in the description box below as well. But also, I will be including links to the band's Bandcamp pages or their YouTube pages, just in case you don't use Spotify, so you can find the music for yourself. Like, share, subscribe. I always appreciate your support as always. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much, and I will see you very soon in my next video.